People think the hotel keeps the guest. I ran the night audit for 6 years. I've seen the bill. It's the other way around. 61 years. Every night, one line in the books. One line, and the lights stay on, and the lift never fails, and the doors open in the morning.
Report number 17. A city hotel, 61 years old, 140 rooms, 139 of them for sale. Date. Room 508 has never taken a guest. Housekeeping services it anyway, every day, because every morning it needs servicing. This is the evening maid's statement.
Turndown is the gentlest work in a hotel. You fold back the bed, you leave the chocolate, you dim the lights, you set the room up for sleep. 14 years I did Turndown on the 5th floor. 14 years I set up 508 for sleep. And somebody slept.
On the room chart, 508 is marked Technical Reserve, permanently out of inventory, no reservations, no keycards cut. On the floor, 508 is a working room. Every morning the bed is slept in, not staged, slept. The particular human geometry of a body that favors its right side. The pillow doubled the way older guests double it. A towel folded on the tub's edge in the hotel style of another era, corners tucked. The water glass by the carafe, used, rinsed, set upside down to drain. A habit, she notes, of people raised to leave things decent behind. And on the pillow, where 14 years of training told her hands to leave the chocolate, something waited for her each morning in return. Coins, neatly stacked. A tip die. The coins were the first thing she couldn't file away. The denominations were right. The country was right. The years were wrong. Coinage withdrawn decades ago, the kind you see in museum trays, dull with handling history. These were not dull. They shone the way pocket change shines, carried and counted and warmed, and they were warm. Morning after morning, coins fresh out of circulation and fresh out of someone's hand. She kept them in a jar at first, then stopped keeping them anywhere, because counting them taught her the second thing. The amounts moved. A flawless Turndown, hospital corners, chocolate-centered, curtains left the handspan open that the room seemed to prefer, brought a taller stack. A rushed evening, a skipped detail, brought a single coin, placed very exactly in the center of the pillow, the way you'd leave a comment rather than a payment. Somewhere on the other side of her work, 14 years deep, someone was keeping score. Kindly, but keeping it.
I never told the other girls why I took such care with an empty room. Professional pride, I said. But you know what it really was? It's the only room in this hotel where I was certain that the work was seen. Every maid should be so lucky. That's the terrible part. I was lucky.
The escalation when it came was a kindness, which is what makes it hard to tell. A brutal Friday, 3 checkouts running late, a spill on the corridor carpet, her cart half-stocked. She did 508 fast and forgot the chocolate. She realized it at the end of the shift, 11 flights later, waiting in the staff corridor by the service lift, and the lift arrived without being called. Car 3. The doors opened on an empty cab, lit and patient. And on the floor of the cab, centered on the carpet the way an offering is centered, lay a chocolate. Hotel stock. Aw. Her stock, the corner of the wrapper creased the way they crease in her cart's left tray and nowhere else. Returned to her. Not thrown, not dropped. Presented. She stood in front of the open lift for a long moment, she says, doing the only arithmetic that mattered. Nothing about it was angry. It was a reminder. The kind an old regular gives the staff he's fond of. You forgot, dear. It's all right. But you forgot. She rode back up. 11 floors, at the end of a double shift, with a chocolate in each hand. One for the pillow and one, she admits freely, as an apology. She set them side by side, straightened the corner she'd rushed, dimmed the lights to the room's preferred dusk, and left without looking back, because by then, she had her own etiquette for 508, and looking back wasn't in it. The next morning, the bed was slept in. The towel was folded, the glass was rinsed. On the pillow, The tallest stack of coins in 14 years. And beneath the coins, a sheet of hotel stationery, not the current stock. The letterhead the hotel retired in the 60s, crisp as the day it was printed. On it, in fountain pen, in a hand so even, it could have been set by a typesetter, 5 words. One is enough. Thank you for the years.
14 years I thought I was turning down an empty room. Now I stand in the corridor some evenings and I look down the row of doors, 501 to 540, and I think, which of these was I ever really doing for nobody? That's the question this hotel gives you instead of a pension. Which rooms were empty? Any of them?
The exhibits? The Technical Reserve Register, first page, room 508, withdrawn from sale by order number 1. Signed the day the hotel opened, 61 years ago. Ground cited. See Founders Agreement, Appendix B. Appendix B does not exist in the hotel's archive, the city's notarial archive, or the law firm that has serviced the property since opening. The firm confirmed, in writing, that their copy of the Founders Agreement ends at Appendix A and one administrative note that closes this report. The maid, being an honest woman, eventually surrendered the coin jar to the hotel accountant. The accountant, being an honest man, booked it. The entry stands in the ledger, category, revenue, other, dole. The auditors have passed it 6 years running. Money out of circulation, accepted into circulation, by a hotel that has always, as we will see, kept very particular books. The report remains open, unresolved, a quiet one. Before the next report, a fragment. Fragment 07. A cloakroom ledger, New Year's banquet, 1987. Confirmed guests, 112. Coat tokens issued, 111. All evening, on hook 112, hung a coat no attendant remembered taking. A man's overcoat, heavy wool, shoulders damp, on a night when, per the weather service, no snow fell and no rain. At 2 a.m., the coat was gone. Token 112 was never issued and never returned. The attendant closed the ledger with an entry she declined, for the rest of her employment, to explain or amend. Issued 111, returned 112. The figures are in the same hand, the same ink, without correction. The ledger passed its audit. This fragment remains unprocessed. This fragment remains unprocessed. Report number 18. Same hotel, 4 floors down, where the kitchen runs all night. Orders arrive through the terminal, all but one. One order arrives through a pneumatic tube that was demolished, sealed, and filled with concrete 23 years ago. It arrives anyway. This is the night waiter's statement.
Every kitchen has one order that isn't on the menu. Ours comes down a pipe that isn't in the building. Falls into the basket with a little thump. Same as it did for the man before me, and the man before him. You hear that thump at 2 in the morning. You don't ask questions. You warm the consommé.
The order always reads the same. A service form of a stock the hotel retired generations ago. Filled in fountain pen, the hand even and unhurried. Dinner for one. The usual. 508. What the usual means is written nowhere. No card in the kitchen files, no line in any menu, current or archive. It lives in the chefs. The night chef assembles it without consulting anything. Consommé, roast beef rare, and half a bottle of a particular Bordeaux, a vintage, the waiter eventually checked, that the chateau stopped producing before he was born. When he asked how the chef knew the order, the chef said what chefs say. The one before me taught me. And him? The one before him. The recipe has been handed down that kitchen longer than the ovens have stood in it. Longer than the company that owns the hotel has existed. A piece of oral scripture with a room number attached. And the Bordeaux never runs out. A single case in the far corner of the cellar. 11 bottles by every count before each dinner and after. Delivery is a ritual with the human parts removed. The tray goes into service, car 3. No button is pressed. Pressing one, the waiter was warned early, is considered rude. The doors close on their own. The lift leaves. One night, against all inherited advice, he took the back stairs at a run, 4 flights, and came out on 5 in time to see it. Car 3 standing open at the end of the corridor, the tray already at the door of 508, and the cloche, the silver dome over the plate, still rocking gently on the beat of a hand just lifted. From behind the door, one sound. A chair, drawn back across a wooden floor. One chair. He stood in that corridor, he says, exactly as long as his courage lasted, which was not long, and walked back down 4 flights of stairs. By the time he reached the kitchen, the pneumatic tube had already delivered its reply. A capsule with a folded note and a tip in warm coins. The note said, "The stairs creak on the 4th floor. Mind your knees. Thank you."
Read that again the way I did. He heard me on the stairs. Fine. But mind your knees. That's not a warning. That's the way my grandfather talked to waiters he liked. That's a regular, worried about the staff. I was 26. Nobody in that building had ever worried about my knees.
Then last winter the waiter got the flu. Properly. Fever. 3 days flat. The first shifts he'd missed in 4 years. There is no substitute for a duty nobody officially holds, and the kitchen braced, that first night, for the thump of a capsule with no one to carry what it asked. The capsule came. The order is different. Same form, same fountain pen, same even hand, but it read, "Dinner for 2. Let him rest." The night chef, a practical woman not given to ceremony, assembled 2 of the usual and added, on her own judgment, a second glass. The tray went into car 3. No one pressed a button. And 2 mornings later, at the waiter's apartment, an address he has never given the hotel beyond the personnel file locked in an office upstairs, the mail brought a card. Hotel stationery, the letterhead of the 60s. A stamp so old the post office should have rejected it, and didn't. Fountain pen, get well soon. Your shift is yours. He keeps the card, he says, in the drawer with his documents, with the things that prove who he is.
Dinner for 2. I've thought about that every night since. Either he had company for the first time in 60 years, or the second place was set for my chair, for the waiter, resting. I honestly don't know which one I want it to be. And I went back the 4th night. Fever or no fever. You don't leave a regular like that waiting. He knows where I live, and all he's ever done with it is wish me well.
The exhibits? The renovation file, 2003. Pneumatic system decommissioned, 2 runs cut and grouted solid, signed by the contractor, photographs attached. 1 photograph matters. A cross-section of the main riser, taken to certify the concrete fill, and certified it was by 3 signatures. The concrete is there, gray and total. Running through its center, clean as a bore, is a circular void the exact diameter of a message capsule. The contractor's site foreman appended a handwritten note that the file has preserved for 23 years without anyone acting on it. Poured this run twice. Void reopened overnight both times. 3rd pour canceled per hotel management. Instructed to certify as is and invoice in full. Management's countersignature is illegible. The invoice, accounting confirms, was paid the same day. The only same-day payment in the hotel's records. Some holes, this file suggests, are load-bearing. The report remains open. Unresolved. While a quiet one. 2 reports remain. 61 years the hotel has kept its guest. The bed, the dinner, the quiet 5th floor. The last 2 reports concern the other half of the arrangement. What the guest has been keeping. Report number 19. Filed by the hotel's lift technician, the man who keeps 3 elevators certified and 1 of them company. Car 3, the service lift. You have met it twice in this file already. Returning a chocolate, carrying a dinner. His statement concerns its mileage. Car 3 travels more by night than by day. By night, there are no calls.
A controller log can lie. It's software. Software does what it's told. A gear train odometer can't. It's brass and arithmetic. It counts revolutions, and revolutions mean floors. 40 to 60 floors a night, that car does. With an empty call log. You want to know where an elevator goes at night when nobody's calling it? So did I. That was my mistake. No, it wasn't a mistake. It was my turn.
Lift maintenance is forensic work. You read a machine's life in its wear. The technician taking over the contract 2 winters ago started with the anomaly every predecessor had apparently learned to stop seeing. Car 3's odometer running 40, 60 floors a night against a call log flat as still water. Software says the car sleeps. Brass says it works a shift. So he read the wear. Rope crown polished at the travel bands a basement to 5 run would polish. Door operators at B and at 5 worn soft and quiet. Decades of gentle, unhurried cycling. While the door gear at the lobby, the busiest landing in any hotel, is younger and rougher. Guide shoes glazed at the stopping points of exactly 2 floors. Car 3 has a route the way old horses have a route. Basement. Where the laundry lives, up to 5. Up and back. Night after night. For longer, the metal says, than any employee has been alive to notice. The shaft told him the rest. On the main divider beam at the 5th floor level, where only inspection men ever stand, he found chalk. Columns of it, dates and initials, tally strokes in 5s, the oldest column faded to a breath, 1964. Different hands, decades of them, each column ending where the next begins. Lift men counting something, year over year and passing the chalk. He recognized the second to last hand from the maintenance logs he'd inherited. His predecessor, 40 years on the contract, dead last spring. The old man's column ends mid-tally. And beneath it, at the bottom of the ledger of the shaft, stood 1 stroke more. Fresh chalk, bright against the steel, unfaded, a single patient continuation mark. The technician carries no chalk. He checked his kit twice, standing on that beam. Then he checked the date of the stroke against the odometer's arithmetic, and it resolved to within a few nights of the old man's funeral. Someone had kept the count going through the vacancy. Someone did not want the ledger to lapse.
That's when I understood the chalk wasn't decoration. It's a logbook. 60 years of my trade, counting the night runs, initialing the count, handing it on. And when there was nobody to hold the chalk, the other party kept the books current. Whatever the arrangement is, it does its own accounting. You know who else does that. Banks.
He mounted a camera in the cab. Small, magnetic, aimed at the panel. The footage from the first night survives, and he has watched it, he says, more times than is good for a person. 2:40 a.m. The doors open in the basement, onto the dark of the laundry landing. A pause, the specific duration of someone stepping aboard without hurry. Then the button for 5 moves. Not the light behind it, the button. The plastic travels its full mechanical stroke under a pressure the lens cannot find, and the car rises. At 5, the doors stand open for 8 minutes. Linen night, he learned later. The 5th floor closet is restocked before dawn. By the day crew, everyone assumed. The doors close. The car goes home to the basement. The second night, the camera was gone from its mount. No alarm, no scratch. And a day after that, the kitchen's pneumatic tube coughed up a capsule heavier than usual. Inside, the camera, unharmed, footage intact, and a note, fountain pen, even hand, for the young man in the machine room. No need. We settled this in 64. He thought about the note for 3 shifts. Then he did what the shaft had been telling him to do since the first column of chalk. He climbed to the divider beam and found what had been left for him there, set square on the steel where a man's tools go, a stick of chalk, white, half-worn, and he held it a long moment to be sure, because it mattered. Warm. Hand warm, and a shaft that never rises past 12 degrees. He added 1 stroke beneath the fresh one. His first. Initialed it the way 60 years of his trade had initialed theirs. He describes the feeling in the statement with a tradesman's precision, not fear. Onboarding.
We settled this in 64. I don't know the terms. The terms weren't offered to me. The chalk was. But I'll tell you what I know as a lift man. In 61 years, Car 3 has never once trapped a soul between floors. Never failed a safety test. Never dropped, never stalled with a person aboard. Not once, and I've read every certificate back to the first. Find me another car of that age with a record like that. Anywhere. That record is somebody keeping their side.
The exhibits. The registration papers for car 3, manufacturer's serial number absent from the maker's own registry. The maker checked twice, at the technician's insistence, and confirmed in writing that no such car ever left their works. The installation documents resolve the contradiction without explaining it. Cab supplied by the client, they say, in the clerk's hand of 1964. And from the same year, the same month, one page of the hotel's incident book. During the installation of car 3, a rigger died in the shaft. Night work. No witnesses. The inquiry closed in 11 days. Accidental death. And one clause that no insurance man wrote, because no insurance pays this way, compensation to the family from the owner's personal funds. In perpetuity. The hotel's accounts confirm the payment. It has gone out monthly for 61 years, through 4 changes of ownership, itemized under a heading that has never been questioned at audit. The heading is one word: maintenance. The report remains open. Unresolved. A quiet one. One more fragment before the final report. Fragment 08. A minibar ledger, room 508. A room that has never sold a night. The ledger carries a single charge in 61 years, 1 bottle of water. The date matters. It is the night the hotel was evacuated on a fire alarm. Every guest on the sidewalk, every room sealed and cross-checked by the fire marshal, the building certified empty for 4 hours. The charge is time-stamped inside those 4 hours. Beneath it, in the audit hand of that era, stands the reversing entry, written the same night. Charge waived. Guests did not leave the room. Water, courtesy of the house. Both lines passed audit. The fire marshal's certificate of an empty building, and the auditor's certainty of a guest who never left it are filed. To this day, in the same box. This fragment remains unprocessed. This fragment remains unprocessed. The final report. And the author of the voice that opened this file. The night auditor. The one employee whose job is not to serve the hotel, but to close it. At 4 a.m., he runs the audit, the procedure that ends the hotel's day, and writes down, once and for all, what happened in it. His statement concerns one line that writes itself. And one night he refused to let it.
Every night audit ends the same way. The books misbalance by the price of exactly 1 room, and then the system fixes itself. 1 line. Complimentary stay, 508, authorization code 001, Dordo. 6 years I watched that line appear. It's the calmest thing in the building. It's the heartbeat.
Authorization code 0001 belongs, per the system's own records, to the hotel's first general manager, issued 1964, status, active. It cannot be active. The property management software has been replaced 3 times. Each migration was supposed to retire dead accounts, and each migration's documentation confirms it did. Code 1 crossed every bridge anyway, unescorted, like a name that moves house with the family. The auditor went further back, into the basement archive, and pulled the paper. 61 years of handwritten night audit journals, shelf after shelf. He sampled decades at random. The line is always there. Complimentary stay, 508. In the copperplate of the 60s, the ballpoint of the 80s, the tired print of the 2000s. Dozens of auditors, some of whose entries shake, and some of whose entries press through 3 pages, and not one of them, in 22,000 nights, ever skipped. Rows of strangers, all keeping the same heartbeat going. He understood, reading those shelves, that he had joined a relay without being told the distance. So he did the one thing no runner had done. He stopped to see what the race would do. He let the imbalance stand. 4:40 a.m., the audit run holding at 99%, 1 line withheld. His finger, he says, resting on a key that suddenly weighed a great deal. At 4:44, the property system froze. Not crashed, froze, mid-heartbeat. The lobby lights went next, not all of them. They died in sequence, wing by wing, until what remained was a single lit path across the marble, from the front desk to the doors of service car 3, which opened, empty, and waited. The building declined with the patience of a body giving notice. Somewhere below, car 3 left its landing, descended to the basement, and stopped. Stopped dead, out of level, for the first time in 61 years of certificates. The laundry's nightline rang the desk. Their doors would not open. Then the fire panel began its pre-alarm murmur. Then the desk phone rang, internal, and the display named the caller, 508TW. He did not lift the receiver. He is honest about why, not courage. He did not trust what his voice would agree to. And so the answer came in writing instead. The audited printer, offline, mid-freeze, fed a single page. Not a report. An invoice formatted in a template no one has found in the system since, addressed to the hotel itself. For services of preservation rendered, it said, 61 years. In the field for the total, no figure, words, paid by residents. And at the bottom, alone, one line in the even fountain hand, this file has met 3 times already. Shall we continue? He ran the line. Complimentary stay, 508, code 0001.OE. The building came back the way I held breath. Let's go. All at once and gratefully. Light system, the fire panel settling. Car 3 releveling itself and rising, unbidden to 5. As if to check on someone. The laundry called back to say, never mind. Total duration of the demonstration, 11 minutes. In the morning he did not resign. He says the thought embarrassed him. The way abandoning a ward embarrasses a nurse. He filed a memo instead. Subject: Night Audit Procedure Amendment. Step 7. New, mandatory. Confirm the accommodation of room 508 before closing the day. The general manager signed it. He notes, without reading past the header. The way, the archive suggests. Every manager has signed everything concerning that room for 61 years. The heartbeat is now policy. He considers this the finest work of his career.
Everyone in this file thinks the hotel keeps him. The maid keeps his room. The kitchen keeps his table. The lift keeps his schedule. I ran the audit. I've seen the invoice. It's the other way around. He keeps us. 61 years. Every night. For the price of 1 line in the books. I don't know what he's been keeping us from. I saw the bill, not the menu. But for 11 minutes one night, he stopped paying. And I never want to see minute 12.
The last exhibit, and the file closes. The hotel's first register, opening night, 1964, page 1, line 1.OE. Before any paying guest, before the ribbon was cut, someone was checked in. Room 508. The name in the guest column is written small and plainly, and it is a name this city knows, because it is carved into the hotel's cornerstone. The founder who financed the building, and who, the histories say, died abroad the year it opened, date and place never established. The departure column is blank. It has been blank for 61 years. And in the margin, in the pencil of a registrar 61 years gone, a note survives, small and final. Owner says this guest is forever. Do not ask. 4 reports, 1 hotel, a room that tips its maid, a table kept for 1, sometimes 2, a lift with a debt of honor, and a single line of bookkeeping, run every night at 4 a.m. That may be the only rent this building has ever truly paid. The maid still leaves 1 chocolate. The kitchen still warms the consommé. The chalk column grows by a stroke. And somewhere above the lobby, the books balance. All 4 reports remain open, unresolved, and quiet ones. The whole file, quiet ones. Good night from the quiet report. Mind stares on 4 times.